I have never seen the liberal media turn on a Democrat quite like this. So Chuck Schumer is on this embarrassing press tour trying to defend why he voted for the Congress spending bill because the Democrats are absolutely livid. So he goes on CBS this morning and the panel absolutely destroys this man. What I got from this interview and why I want to share it so bad is not just the comedy of Chuck Schumer being devoured by his own. It's the state of panic and desperation that the Democrats are in and their willingness to consider using extraordinary measures to get what they want. As always, like the video and subscribe to the channel, but let's start with them asking Chuck Schumer point blank to defend his position on why he voted for the spending bill.
Now, last week, you and 9 other Democrats helped avert a government shutdown by voting for a Republican-written bill, which many Democrats have been angered by, and we've seen it described as a civil war, as a train wreck. Many Democrats believe, you know, if you have a government shutdown, that will force President Trump and Republicans to the negotiating table. Why not use your vote to push back and fight?
Because the idea that they would go to the negotiating table is they don't do it. This is a new group. This is not the old group. Let me explain. I knew when I took this vote there'd be a lot of protests, but I felt I had to do it for the future, not only of the Democratic Party, but the country. Because here's as bad as that CR bill was, and it was bad, a shutdown is 10 times worse. Let me give you what happens.
Been blamed on the Democrats.
And you're right, Gail. But can I just explain
But
what?
you had been saying you were not going to vote. I think people were upset with you, and people are very upset with you because you had led people to believe that no, I'm going to vote against.
Okay, well, let me explain why first the shutdown is terrible. People ought to know that. The executive branch, in this case, Musk, Doge, and this horrible guy Vogt, who have no concern for working people, would have had sole power to determine what opens and what closes. They determine what is essential. You can't go to court. So on day 2, get rid of SNAP and food for hungry kids. It's not essential. Day 4, get rid of mass transit aid. Let New York City do it. Not essential. Cut back on Medicaid and health care. Within 2 weeks, everyone would have been howling. Furthermore, it's even worse. It has no off-ramp. Guess who determines when we leave the shutdown? The Republicans. And let's not forget how bad they are.
Let's not forget how bad they are. These people have their lowest approval rating ever. They're in complete disarray. Yet they think that the strategy that is going to get them out of this mess is to continue to insult American citizens. I am convinced that the Democrats are such sore losers that they're willing to push the country to the brink of civil war. The Democrats have put themselves in a predicament where they've tried to convince all of their supporters that the other side is actively dismantling the fabric of American society. Their lack of good ideas and policies has made them resort to this kind of name-calling and fear-mongering that would lead their supporters to believe that the appropriate response from these politicians is something aggressive and drastic. And now that their base has clearly adopted their characterization of the current political climate as catastrophic, the Democrats are mad that their constituency is demanding some sort of appropriate response from them. Yeah, when you call people Hitler, your supporters are going to demand an anti-Hitler level response. And that leads to this next portion where they ask Chuck Schumer, exactly what do you plan to do if Trump defies the courts? And of course, Chuck Schumer has no answer for them.
The leader in question, that is actually what people are debating right now. There are people in your party who don't want you to be a leader in the party anymore. And it's a question of what is this moment and what does it require? I want to ask a question about that moment involving the Venezuelan deportations and the court hearings around it. Put the charges or lack of evidence or whatever against these men aside for now, and let's just talk about the interaction of the Trump administration and the court.
Yes.
They seem to take the position that this court doesn't have jurisdiction over them, and you have Tom Homan saying he doesn't care what the judge thinks. What did Democrats do if and when the Trump administration defies a federal judge?
First of all, we have to have rule of law. People say, well, that's not me. If we get rid of rule of law, a 248-year tradition in America, this democracy is over, okay? So it's vital to stop it. There are two courts.
How do the Democrats do that?
There are two courts. One is the court of public opinion. And the public has to make, if this happens, they have to make their voices known, Democrats, Republicans, everyone, in the strongest terms, because it's ending our democracy. Now, but we also have the courts. And so far, the lower courts have done a good job. We hope the Court of Appeals and the Supreme Court will do the same job. When the lower courts, and I'm very proud that we put in all those judges last year, many of whom are making these decisions, when the lower courts thus far have said to the Trump administration, you must stop, in most cases they have.
But you
But
hear
if
the
they
Trump
don't, that's not my
administration saying
question.
we're not going to
Yeah.
pay attention to the court.
If they don't,
Yeah.
and we go to the Supreme Court and it is defied, democracy is at real risk, and there will have to be extraordinary action taken.
Now, that was a long clip, and there's a couple of things to analyze. First and foremost, him saying it requires an extraordinary response is implying that the Democrats might have to take some sort of drastic action because they've depicted the environment as desperate times call for desperate measures. And because Donald Trump hasn't done anything wrong, they're just sore losers and power hungry. They're not ready to meet the moment that they've created. And the Democrats created this self-inflicted virus within their own party where they rallied so hard against Donald Trump and not what's best for America that they actively have their politicians and their base arguing in favor of illegal gang members. They've created this scenario where Donald Trump is Hitler, so therefore they can't agree with anything that Hitler does, which is causing them to take the most unpopular side of every single issue, and they wonder why their approval rating week after week is at a new record low. There are people who are going to hear the Democrats say they're cutting Social Security, they're cutting Medicaid, they're cutting Medicare, and they think their life is on the brink of collapse. They think they could be homeless. They think there's no way that they can pay to sustain themselves because you guys as the Democrats have told them that. And when they don't see you fighting back in the appropriate manner that they expect, you guys are now annoyed with them. Now, this is when Gayle King, who's usually good for nothing, tells Chuck Schumer to his face, people do not have faith in the Democrat Party. Watch.
There are people in your own party that are saying, look, it's time for you to go. They no longer trust your leadership. They want somebody else in there. What do you say about that?
Here's what I say.
In your own party saying
Yes.
you've got to go.
Here's what I'm saying. I'm the best leader for the Senate. We have a lot of leaders. You know, when you don't have a president, there's not one leader of the party. There are lots of them. We have a lot of good people. But I am the best at keep winning Senate seats. I've done it in 2005. Just in 2020, no one thought we'd take back the Senate. Under my leadership, we took it. So we now
you're not
are
going
executing.
anywhere. You're not going anywhere.
We have a great. We're moving forward. Hakeem and I have a plan. Let me just say this: there's a real contrast between the parties. The Republican Party now, particularly in office, is the party of rich oligarchs who want to really screw every average American so they can get tax cuts for the rich. And we are fighting that every day. So today, we just issued a statement at 8 o'clock that describes it. Hakeem and I, we have a day of action on Medicaid. In every state, in every corner of the country, Democrats are talking about they're going to Medicaid centers. They're going to people who would be deprived and
Senator, people don't have faith in the Democrats.
So their only strategy at this point is to keep lying to people and keep creating a narrative that the Republicans are these villainous, evil, white supremacists who want to take away everything and apparently bomb the country into nothing. And the only people who are still even hearing this message are the radical leftists who just want their worldview justified. Like they keep saying Donald Trump is for the rich, Donald Trump is for the oligarchs. But they won't just accept the results of the election, that Donald Trump is clearly for the working class, and the working class, not the Democrat politicians, actually think that. Donald Trump appealed to the populist by giving them inspiration and hope and optimism for a better future. The Democrats are trying to appeal to the populists by giving them a message of fear and disaster and panic. The Democrats have no plans or strategy. All they have is platitudes and slogans. Before I show you this last Chuck Schumer clip, let me show you a video that I saw on Twitter of a congressman from Texas who is running as an opposition candidate to Donald Trump. And this just highlights how the Democrat Party actually believes their platform, their whole identity can't be about good ideas. That's impossible. It's only about opposing Trump. Watch.
Donald Trump's done nothing for you. Not for your family, not for your paychecks, and not for your future. Wasn't so long ago that he promised you $0 income tax, $1 and something for gas and $2 eggs. But since he's been in office, you've got none of that. Prices are up and jobs are down. You're working harder than ever while Trump and his friends get richer than ever. It's left you asking yourself the question of who's fighting for me? I mean, seriously, who's fighting for you? It's certainly not Donald Trump. It's not the Republicans that shake your hand and ask for your vote, then do nothing for you. You see, they want you distracted. They want you angry at your neighbors so you don't pay attention to what they're really doing. Because if you see them for what they are, you know that Trump's America doesn't work for you. Things are bad right now. You know that, and I know that. They're throwing everything at you. So now's the time to be bold and fight fire with fire. You see, I believe in a Democratic Party that has a spine, a party that stands for something, a party that fights back.
I mean, what was that? That is the worst embodiment of what politics is. Empty slogans and catchphrases and vague promises. I believe in a Democrat Party that stands for stands for what? Explain what they're supposed to stand for. I believe in a party that's gonna fight back. Fight back how? We've seen everything. We've seen the popsicle stick signs. We've seen the singing at these protests. We've seen you guys show up to agencies and not be let in. We've seen you guys not stand for kids who are the survivors of brain cancer. We've seen you guys advocate for more money to an endless war in Ukraine where millions of people are dying. We've already seen, just by the ratings of the liberal media, that after the election, half the viewership went away because they were tired of being lied to and they got proved wrong on election night. But I wonder how many more Democrats after a year's time, after all these scary theories about cuts to Social Security and Medicaid and Medicare, never happen and people's lives actually get better. You'd think the Democrats would be doing something right now like quietly creating this intricate plan where they review the entire budget, review all the spending, and then present to the American people a viable and detailed way of how the government could be cut down, how inefficiencies could be cut down, and say, this right here is the better alternative to Donald Trump and Elon Musk's chainsaw approach. That's what any respectable opposing political party would do. But that's not what they're doing. All they're doing is advocating for more government waste, more government corruption to continue. Now, the final part of the Chuck Schumer interview I want to show you is when they ask him about Hamas and the ceasefire in Israel that has been terminated. And they get so annoyed by Chuck Schumer, they literally shut him up and send it to commercial.
And you know who else should read it? Donald Trump.
I'm sure you're public.
He has shown, let me just say this, he'd do a lot to read it because Donald Trump, let me just finish this quick point. Donald Trump has shown that he regards Jews as transactional. Oh, they're good for votes, they're good for money. He has no understanding of the Jewish people, and it leads him to do bad things, sitting down with that anti-Semite Fuentes. When Charlottesville occurred, saying both sides are to blame. Cutting off funds to our synagogues that need protection from anti-Semitism.
you, and hopefully
this is an important
you
question
too.
here.
Yes.
You're doing the one hand,
So I
on
hope-
the other hand, it's like
Yes.
Fiddler on the Roof here. For
Yes.
one hand, and on the other hand,
Yes.
this is an important question, though, that a lot of people struggle with. Anti-Semitism, and then the line between anti-Semitism and criticism of Israel, its government, its actions.
Great question. To criticize Israel is not anti-Semitic. I've done it. I got a lot of flack when I criticized Netanyahu a while back.
Yes.
But when it goes over the line and you call someone an effing Zionist or effing Jew, how about the guy who went on the subway car and said, all Zionists get out of the subway car? How about the head of the Brooklyn Museum, Jewish, but nothing to do with Israel, whose house was scarred in red paint? And when people say, from the river to the sea, that's the Hamas slogan. Hamas is genocidal. They want to get rid of all the Jews. You know, their charter says, that a Jew behind a tree? Shoot him. When Hamas does these things and says river to the sea, that is anti-Semitic.
I'm sorry, the nature of these morning shows is the commercials come very fast. We're going to go to the break here.
I mean, they treated him like he was just some old rambling coot. But what it shows more than the hilarious disrespect of their own is that the party is actually desperate and more discombobulated than we could have ever imagined. And the scariest part about all of this that I want everyone to keep in mind is what Chuck Schumer said at the middle of this interview. It is going to require an extraordinary response. And we should all keep that in mind as they are becoming more and more desperate, more and more unhinged, and more disappointed that Donald Trump is implementing his agenda, and they have absolutely no way to stop it. But let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. If you enjoyed the video, make sure you hit that like button. Make sure you subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Turn on those notification bells so you never miss a video. And I will see you guys in the next one.